Any given country only tends to get one version of any given movie, so the version you get to see could be very different to the one people get to see elsewhere around the world. You see, any given movie can be altered to suit every single country it's being released in. Those changes can be made to anything from the soundtrack to the pop culture references and everything in between. This video will show you some changes that have been made to characters in movies depending on which country the movies in question were released. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It's the best way to keep up to date with all of our great new videos. And before we get started, can you tell which movie this is just by looking at the emojis? Hang around till the end of the video to find out if you guessed correctly.
You probably didn't know, but a bunny can call another bunny cute, but when other animals do it, it's a little...
Zootopia. Zootopia is a 2016 Walt Disney Animation Studios movie about a world populated by anthropomorphic animals. The movie's main characters are a rabbit police officer and a red fox con artist, but there are also some animal news anchors. The news anchors in question are the focus of this entry, as they differ depending on the country in which the movie is being shown. There's a snow leopard as one of the news anchors in pretty much all versions of the movie, but it is accompanied by a different animal depending on the audience. In China, it's a giant panda. In Australia, it's a koala. In Japan, it's a tanuki. And in the United States, most of mainland Europe, Russia, and the majority of countries around the world, the other news anchor is a moose. Although it's also notable that the moose's name does differ depending on the country. Shrek 2. Shrek 2 is the brilliant 2004 DreamWorks animation sequel to 2001's even more brilliant Shrek movie. It had a truly tremendous voice cast that was jam-packed with major stars from around the world. We all know, for example, that Mike Myers voiced the titular green ogre, that Eddie Murphy voiced his donkey friend, that Cameron Diaz voiced Princess Fiona, and that Julie Andrews voiced Queen Lillian, and so forth. But there were a couple of characters in the movie who were voiced by different people depending on the country in which it was being shown. Those being Doris the Ugly Stepsister and the red carpet announcer. Doris the Ugly Stepsister was voiced by two different iconic talk show hosts in the United States and the United Kingdom versions of the movie. Those being Larry King in the United States version and Jonathan Ross in the United Kingdom version respectively. And the red carpet announcer at the Far, Far Away Royal Ball in the movie was voiced by the late, great, legendary, and truly hilarious comedian Joan Rivers in the United States version of the movie, and the former host of The X Factor, Kate Thornton, in the United Kingdom version of the movie. Iron Man 3. 2013's Iron Man 3 is one of the most poorly received installments in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There are a number of reasons for this, one of which was the ad hoc removal of Tony Stark's arc reactor and the shrapnel in his chest, something that was previously described quite explicitly as not being possible. In the general release version of the movie, audiences briefly saw a character by the name of Dr. Wu, played by Wang Jieqi. However, in a cut of the movie that was made specifically for an exclusive release in China, he was far more prominent in the movie. This was largely because the movie was a co-production between Marvel Studios and China-based DMG Entertainment. In those additional scenes, he has quite a long conversation with one of his assistants, who was played by Fan Bingbing. The pair discuss the intricacies of the procedure in a little more detail, something that would have undoubtedly been welcomed by fans in other parts of the world, as the fact that Stark was so easily able to have the arc reactor and shrapnel removed from his body was the subject of many questions from those confused by it.
Hello?
Is this Lightning McQueen, the world's fastest racing machine?
Is this Harv, the world's greatest agent?
Cars. 2006's Cars movie is a brilliant offering from the always fantastic Pixar Animation Studios. It quite famously utilizes the voice talents of the likes of Owen Wilson as the main character Lightning McQueen, Paul Newman as Doc Hudson, Larry the Cable Guy as Mater, and Bonnie Hunt as Sally Carrera. But there is one character in the movie who is voiced by two different people depending on which country the movie is being shown. The character in question is Harv, Lightning McQueen's agent, who is never actually seen on screen. In the UK version of the movie, Harv is voiced by the controversial television host Jeremy Clarkson. This makes sense because Clarkson was famously the lead host of BBC show Top Gear, which focuses on cars, and he currently hosts the Grand Tour on Amazon Prime, which is a very similar show. In the general release version of the movie, however, Harv is voiced by American actor Jeremy Piven, who has no such explicit link to the world of the automotive industry. Planes. Planes is a 2013 Disney Toon Studios movie that was released by Walt Disney Pictures. It's actually a spin-off of the aforementioned Cars franchise in spite of the fact that it has nothing to do with Pixar. As you would expect, given that Cars features anthropomorphic cars, Planes features a group of anthropomorphic airplanes. The character of Rochelle in the movie has a different paint job and different names depending on the country of release. There are in fact 11 different versions of the racing plane. For example, in the original movie, Rochelle is pink, red, and white. In Australia, she's red, green, yellow, black, and white, and she has a kangaroo on her side. In Russia, she's called Tatiana and has the Russian flag painted on her. In Brazil, she's called Carolina and is white, green, blue, and yellow. And in Germany, she's called Heidi and is white, black, yellow, and red. She's also contextualized in completely different ways in certain countries. In Australia and New Zealand, for example, she's a former Tasmanian mail delivery plane. And the same goes for Italy, where she's an Italian prototype plane called Azzurra.
You are one dynamite gal.
Wreck-It Ralph. Who doesn't love Wreck-It Ralph? The 2012 Walt Disney Animation Studios movie with John C. Reilly in the titular voice role was universally praised and featured an abundance of fun video game characters who cross over into each other's games in an arcade. There was a minor character in the movie who went by the name of Minty Zaki, a racer character who was named after Japanese movie animator Hayao Miyazaki. However, in the Japanese version of the movie, Minty's last name was actually changed to Sakura, and she underwent a complete image makeover. The character was given red lip gloss, shorter green hair with fringe bangs, layered bangs on both sides of her face, and a hair bun that was drizzled in chocolate. There was also a character in the movie called Dr. Brad Scott. He was the deceased fiancé of Tamara Kaloon, voiced by Jane Lynch from the Hero's Duty game. In the general release version of the movie, Scott was voiced by Tim Mertens. However, in the UK version of the movie, he was voiced by popular television and radio presenter Nick Grimshaw, a man probably best known for hosting a number of different shows on the UK's most listened to radio station, BBC Radio 1. Red Dawn. Red Dawn is a 2012 war movie that you may or may not have heard of, as it didn't exactly perform brilliantly at the box office. It was also pretty terrible, but that's a discussion for another time and place. It did, however, have a pretty impressive ensemble cast, including the likes of Chris Hemsworth, Josh Peck, Josh Hutcherson, Adrian Palicki, Isabel Lucas, and Negan himself, Jeffrey Dean Morgan. The movie's plot originally revolved around a group of young people defending their hometown from a Chinese invasion. However, in post-production, the movie's villains were changed from being Chinese to being North Korean, in order to increase the movie's chances of success in the Chinese market. It is, therefore, very different to the other entries in this video, as the movie was changed entirely, not just for one country, but the fact that it was changed in order to cater to one country in particular makes it eligible for inclusion. Editing occurred that changed Chinese flags to North Korean flags. Several scenes were completely re-edited, and the film's opening scene was reworked completely, with its original story of the Chinese government invading the United States to forcefully collect a debt after the country defaulted on its loans being dropped. Moana. The 2016 Walt Disney Animation Studios movie saw the titular character Moana, who heads off on a journey of discovery with the demigod Maui, who is voiced by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
You know, Maui is the hero to all. You're doing great.
The titular character had to be renamed for the movie's release in certain countries, however, which resulted in the name of the movie itself having to be changed as well. In Italy, Moana had to be renamed because there already is a very famous Moana there, the late Moana Pozzi. Believe it or not, Pozzi was an adult film actress who passed away in 1994, but she was incredibly popular in the mainstream and even starred in her own animated movie called Moana Land, in which she fought against the corruption in Italian politics. In order to distinguish this children's movie from the adult industry, the name change was essential. In a number of other European countries such as Spain and Romania, however, the title and titular character of Moana needed to be changed for another reason. There was a copyright clash over the word Moana, as it is a brand name, so the movie is known as Vaiana. Harry Potter. The Harry Potter movie franchise, which was, of course, based on English author J.K. Rowling's hugely successful series of books, is one of the most successful movie franchises of all time, both critically and commercially. One of the most beloved characters in the franchise is undoubtedly Hermione Granger, who is so brilliantly portrayed by the fantastic Emma Watson. In the Netherlands, however, fans of the series know Hermione Granger by a different name, Hermelijn Griefeld. The name Hermelijn was used for pronunciation reasons, but Griefeld was used because it relates so well to Hermione's character. You see, in the Dutch language, a Griefeld is a pen that was once used in schools to write on slate. When somebody was rewarded with a Griefel, it meant they had performed a task incredibly well, which suits Hermione, or Hermeline, as the case in the Netherlands, as she is an exceptionally talented witch who always achieved highly at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry and was one of the establishment's better students. Swallows and Amazons. Swallows and Amazons was an extremely popular 1930 children's novel that was written by English author Arthur Ransome. In 2016, it was turned into a movie, but one character's name had to be changed. It would have caused too many snickers in other English-speaking countries around the world. The original story had a character in it called Titty Walker, who was based on a real woman who went by the name of Mavis Titty Altunian. Obviously, that name has a certain connotations that render it unsuitable for audiences in the United States.
I'm Able Seaman Tatty Walker, aged 9.5.
But the change didn't come without controversy. Barbara Altunian, the niece of Mavis Titty Altunian, said that her aunt would be turning in her grave at the alteration and said that the rest of her family were absolutely furious that the name had been changed. However, Sophie Neville, who played Titty Walker in the previous movie adaptation of Swallows and Amazons in 1974 and is the current president of the Arthur Ransome Society, reluctantly admitted that the change was necessary. She said, "For those to be financed, we need to think about the reaction of international audiences. We might have to pay the price by changing Titty's name." And that's the end of our video. Did you enjoy it? We certainly hope so. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more great videos just like this one. And the answer to the emoji quiz is, we hope you had fun guessing. Bye for now.